Excuse me, sir, come on up and I'll ring you out. Come on, buddy, we're out of here at 5 on Sundays. Yeah, hey, this is Joe over at Fairfax Auto on Church. Yeah, I got a problem getting someone out of here. He's over there. I don't know what he's on. He's mumbling, but he just won't leave.
Okay, buddy, it's time to go. The store's closing.
Bye.
Come on, it's time to go.
What's your problem? Your hands behind your back.
You go to put your hands on him and he goes, flails about. You know, the police aren't trained to back off and say, you know, oh, okay, we'll let you start flailing about and assaulting us. You know, we're not trained to do that.
Come on, it's time to go.
What's your problem?
Being attacked may be a cop's worst fear, and the response must be decisive. But did it need to come to this?
If they're ignoring you, that's unusual. Typically, when we show up in uniform, we get noticed, even if we don't say anything. And if that doesn't happen, there's something more going on.
Imagine an epileptic seizure with no convulsions, where the person can look straight at you, talk, even walk. It's called a complex partial seizure. Partial because it affects a relatively small area of the brain, so the person still has control over basic motor functions. But that's where the similarities to normal end.
Come on over here.
And where police can get tripped up. It's all too easy to confuse a complex partial seizure with drug use or drunkenness.
When I start having my seizures, yeah, it just starts swinging around and kicking, and I can't stop, and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know I'm doing it.
When I say somebody's had a seizure, everybody thinks of a convulsion. But the fact is, seizures can be any one of a number of things. It could be jerking of the arm, it could be staring, it could be inability to concentrate, it could be seeing a light, it could be just being confused.
Kevin, can you hear me?
Compounding the problem, complex partial seizures make it impossible to follow orders.
There's no awareness at all. So, you know, I'm a 30-year military veteran, so I'm used to responding to instructions. But once in a seizure, I don't hear you.
Here I am, I'm looking awake, and yet I can't speak to you. And you're thinking, what is going on with this person? Are they being belligerent?
Yeah, once you put hands on and then the flailing starts, the officer may have caused that to occur because he couldn't control his movements because he was in an epileptic seizure. And then it looks like they're fighting you, but they're not.
You really gotta slow down on some of these and think also outside the box and think this might be a medical issue, might not be just a drunk.
But had I had some training, I may have recognized that it was an epileptic seizure and not a drug fit.
There's no question that in some situations, a forceful response by law enforcement is necessary. Of course, encountering a person having an epileptic seizure who is not endangering others is not one of them. The tricky part, how to tell it's a seizure.
Now there's some clues. And one of the clues is what we call automatic or automatistic behaviors. And for example, somebody smacking their lips or blinking their eyes or doing perhaps repetitive movements with their hands.
They don't know who you are. They feel threatened in their mind. And even though you're a uniformed officer, they oftentimes will not understand that and will resist or push away or think that they're being threatened and try to defend themselves.
And it's like a conscious nightmare. It's you know, when you have a nightmare and you wake up and you're really scared and you're looking around, well, if you magnify that by 10, the fear and the apprehension that happens, that's what happens to me.
And if you come close to me, I might just push you away in a non-purposeful way usually. Purposeful activity is usually not possible, but if somebody approaches and I'm fearful, of course, I'll protect myself.
One of the things you want to do is talk very calmly to someone that you suspect is in that situation and not touch them unless absolutely necessary for their safety or the safety of someone else around them.
What we want to do is lead them, not restrain them. The restraint will bring out frequently a reaction.
If by approaching them and getting close to them you aggravate the situation and they become more agitated, the best response there is to back off of that.
They have to really evaluate and look at all the other signs that are there and try to even ask some medical history, you know, just investigate a little further. And if there's relatives or friends that are there, to ask those questions.
Yeah, hey, thanks for coming by.
It's important to fully investigate before moving in close or making an arrest.
When he came into the store, was he acting normally?
Yeah, he seemed fine. He walked over to the aisle.
Getting answers to these questions will help you decide if it might be epilepsy. Does this person have a history of seizures? Did the abnormal behavior come on suddenly? Are they wearing a medical bracelet, or are they in possession of seizure medication? Are they engaging in repetitive actions, such as smacking their lips, blinking their eyes, or picking at their clothes? Did they have a loss of bladder or bowel control?
From ABC News headquarters.
People in suburban Detroit are still trying to figure out how a man ended up being tasered and thrown in jail for almost 3 weeks simply for having a seizure. He is one of nearly 3 million Americans who suffer from epilepsy, and police mistook his epileptic seizure for resisting arrest.
I was taking a walk, and that's where I had one of these seizures.
The lady, she was a cleaning lady at one of the houses, and he was just walking. Anyway, she watched him for a while. She didn't think acting normally, so she called 911.
They gave me some orders, and they told me to stop doing whatever I was doing, and well, I didn't listen to their orders.
He was out of control, they said. So they tasered him, had guns on him, and I guess used a club on him to knock him down so they could put him in handcuffs.
When you're going to arrest someone who you may think is under the influence of drugs or tampering with a vehicle or committing a crime, when in fact that's not the case, and then you arrest a person without getting all the facts, throw them in jail, and then what do you end up with? You end up with a case where you violated the person's ADA rights.
Then at that point, the officers and the department could possibly be liable for the false arrest of that individual.
So we need to be conscious of that and again, look at those situations a little open-mindedly and not make assumptions where they may be placed under arrest or taken into custody when the situation is not criminal in nature, but it's a result of their disability.
I assume that they should have seen this bracelet because I was wearing this medical alert bracelet.
The worst thing probably would be to misread the situation and to look at it as though it was something other than a medical condition, not be able to see that that's really what's going on, and as a result of that, arrest them.
Once you've determined it's epilepsy, here's how you can assist a person experiencing a complex partial seizure. Talk in a calm, non-threatening voice. Realize that if they don't respond to orders, it is not willful. Don't touch the person unless it's absolutely necessary. Contain the person instead of actively restraining them. If the person is out of control, do not place them face down on the floor with arms behind their back due to risk of asphyxiation. Allow the seizure to run its course, usually less than 5 minutes. Be aware that when the seizure is over, the person may still be confused or wish to sleep. Call EMS if any of the following conditions exist. You may need to check with witnesses or those who know the person to answer these questions. The person is pregnant, injured, or diabetic. The seizure lasts 5 minutes or more. A second seizure starts shortly after the first has ended. The seizure happened in water. There is no medical ID or any way of knowing whether the seizure was caused by epilepsy. Lastly, call EMS if, in your professional judgment, you feel they should be evaluated by a medical professional.
You're wasting your time if you try to holler because they can't respond.
Doesn't penetrate.
Doesn't matter.
Tonic-clonic seizures are usually shorter than complex partial seizures. But if you are in the presence of a person experiencing a so-called grand mal seizure, there are important things you can do to help. Turn the person on their side to clear the airway and prevent choking. Place a soft item under their head, remove their glasses, loosen their collar and necklace. Don't put anything in their mouth. This could cause injuries such as broken teeth. Don't hold them down or restrain them. Allow the seizure to run its course. Convulsions usually last less than 4 minutes. Speak in a calm, non-threatening voice. Be aware that they may continue to be disoriented or wish to sleep after the seizure subsides. Allow them to take their medication. Call EMS if any of the following conditions exist. You may need to check with witnesses or those who know the person to answer these questions. The person is pregnant, injured, or diabetic. The seizure lasts 5 minutes or more. A second seizure starts shortly after the first has ended. Consciousness does not start to return after the shaking has stopped. The seizure happened in water. There is no medical ID or any way of knowing whether the seizure was caused by epilepsy. Lastly, call EMS if, in your professional judgment, you feel they should be evaluated by a medical professional.
When you don't know what's going on and they are not acting appropriately, EMS or ambulances are put on either on standby or are dispatched to wherever they are just to help with the determination of what's going on.
Hello, sir. I'm Officer Brooke. How are you?
Officers across the country are under increasing pressure to identify and properly respond to citizens having seizures.
I don't think he's drunk. I don't smell any alcohol.
More than 3 million Americans live with epilepsy. Although their seizures can be as obvious as full-body convulsions, they can also be as subtle as disorientation.
You know where you are?
And it's possible to confuse their actions with drug or alcohol abuse. Working in law enforcement, chances are you'll encounter a person experiencing a seizure.
I owe it to every person that I provide service to treat them fairly and give them the type of service they need.
For more information on epilepsy and seizures, visit epilepsyfoundation.org or call 1-800-332-1000.